Hello, everybody. It's Thursday, uh, Tuesday. Oh, I'm I'm dying for Thursday because Friday is bank holiday here in Ireland. It's St. Patrick's Day.
Opa,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Thursday because we'll have like a long weekend.
uh,
So, as always, once a month we have our friend Roberto Watanabe from FESP, and this year he's giving us an overview about the book, Spirit's book. And today's topic it is spirits and the incarnation of spirits. So it's important topic to understand the formation of the spirits, why we're having reincarnation. So it's good topics we will hear from Roberto today. I can see some people are joining. Let's give some time for them. Let me change it here. So, so good night, Roberto. How are you, my friend?
fine. Thank you, Stefan. Glad to be here with you all again.
Okay, good, good. So, let me do the initial prayer, and this will give time to people to join. So, let's raise up our thoughts with our mentors of the show, mentors of ESP, Irish Spiritist Federation. Ask them to enlighten ourselves, giving us wisdom, knowledge, faith to move forward, overcome the obstacles, and helping our neighbor. May this prayer reach out to those friends who passed away in this war in Ukraine, with the earthquakes, floods in Brazil, people dying from starvation in Africa, and many, many others we didn't know. May this prayer reach them. So be it. Amen. Okay, dokie. So, see, it worked. We have a lot of people here. Let me put up your presentation here, Roberto.
Okay.
Okay, change this bit here. Okay, so if you need me in the background,
Okay. Thank
okay,
you,
thank
Stefan.
you.
Thank you. Well, hello, everybody again. So, we are going to proceed in our study of the Spiritist book. Until now, we have seen the first part of the book. So, we have seen some presentation about God, about the general elements of the universe, spirit and matter. We also saw some presentation about the creation of the universe and also about the vital principle, which is something that allow us to live. Now we are going to start the second part of the book, which is dedicated to the spirits. We, right? So what what are the spirits, how they incarnate, how is the objective of their incarnation and reincarnation, how is their lives in the spiritual world, and so on and so forth, right? So this is the second part that we are going to start today. Then we are going to start by chapter 1, which talks about spirits, and chapter 2, which is talks about the incarnation of the spirits. what are spirits? What are their origin and nature? So the spirits says to Kardec, the spirits themselves say to Kardec that the spirits are the intelligent beings of the creation. So we are all spirits. Right? When I say the spirits told Kardec about this or that, I'm referring to the discarnate spirits. But we are also spirits. We are incarnate spirits, right? So we are all intelligent beings of the creation. We are individualizations of the intelligent principle. When we saw the general elements of the universe that I mentioned, spirit and matter, spirit is the same as the universal intelligent principle. So from this universal intelligent principle, there are some individualizations, and such individualizations are us. So that's what we are, right? And then but the spirits, the discarnate spirits, here in this part, Kardec is talking more about the discarnate spirit, right? And the spirits populate the universe beyond the material world. So we, as incarnate, we populate the material world, but we ourselves, after this life, when after we die, we will go to the spiritual world. No? So this is the what Kardec, the spirit says, say to Kardec, some places beyond the material world, which is what we call the spiritual world, which we know from spiritism that is around us, right? Around us, and also in other planets. So they are spread throughout the universe, and the discarnate spirits, they are kind of etherealized matter. So they are incorporeal. They don't have bodies like we do. Right? So that's what incorporeal means. But they have an intermediate body, a semi-material body, as we will see soon. And since they never come to an end, they are immortal. I just said that after we die, we go to the spiritual world, right? So then we are mortal. Well, we with this body, the human being, which is comprised of the spirits, the perispirit, and the body. So this compounded being is mortal for sure, because our body is not immortal, right? But the spirit itself is immortal. So that's what Kardec is saying here. Because when I say after we die, death means just the end of our body, because we, with our perispirit, will go to the spiritual world. And then after spending some time there, and also studying, learning, working, there is no loss of activity up there, right? So then we reincarnate again in this world, and then we take a new body, right? So but essentially we are immortal. That's what is being said here, right? So and the spirits comprise the primitive and normal world, because we are essentially spirits, and then we incarnate in this earth, for example, to have our experience, right, in order to evolve. But the original world is the primitive world is the world of spirits. That's what being said here, right? So the spiritual world is pre-existence to the corporeal world and survive it, right? So when, for example, Earth, some let's say some millions of years ahead, will disappear because it's matter, right? Our planet, but the spiritual world will never end, right? So, and it pre-existed to the corporeal worlds, spread throughout the universe, and survived such worlds, right? So such material worlds, and they are independent of each other, but their correlation is unceasing. It means that suppose, for example, that well, that's not a tragic outcome, right? Suppose that our planet would let come to an end, through a war, through let's say, a new nuclear explosion, then what would happen, right? So we as spirits, we are independent of this world. So our body would let's say would have an end with such a nuclear explosion, for example. But we as a spirit would go to the spiritual world. So we are in essence we are independent of this world, right? This material world. But there is a unceasing correlation, the spirits say here to Kardec, because we need the material world. And although we are independent of such a world, we need, well, we are independent essentially, I mean, right? Because when we incarnate and we are here, then we depend of this world. Right? But essentially, we are independent of such a world. So that's why the spiritual world is independent, is the primitive, normal world. And such a spiritual world uh, does not occupy a circumscribed region of space. And you can say it's here, it's there. It, they, it is in some place, but it is not as circumscribed, because the spirits are not that limited as we are, right? Because if I want, for example, well, tomorrow I want to go to the moon, right? I can do that, right? Without the proper spaceship, right? So, and I am limited in my movement here in the material world. And in the spiritual world, there's the limits are much less than in the material world. So that's why um, it does not occupy a restrained, a circumscribed region of space. They So that's why Spirit says that they populate the infinite space in infinite numbers, and some of the spirits are constantly at our side, right? Observing and acting upon us. We will see this at the end of this second part. We will learn that the spirits are constantly interacting with us, not in the sense materially speaking, right? Because we are not talking to the spirit or fighting the spirit materially speaking, but mainly in our thinking, we are constantly being influenced by them, right? The spirits say that sometimes I decide to do something, and I I believe that I decided that by myself, but many times that decision in that decision I was influenced by the spirits, because they are constantly at our side. So, because there are many human beings that they after they die, they are so connected to the material world that they can uh, be much away from here, right? So he they stay here around us. So that's what is being said here, right? And because they are acting upon us, they are serving us, and they are also helping in in the well in the harmony of the universe. They are considered a power, one of the powers of the natures, right? So powers of the nature are not only, for example, the forces of matter, right? Like uh, electromagnetism, for example, right? So the spirits also are one of the powers. They act upon us and upon nature also. We are going to see this, right? And the more evolved the spirit is, the less limited it is in its movement on the worlds, for example, right? But the less advanced it is, uh, the more limited they are in their movement. That's why there are regions forbidden to those less advanced. what as Kardec is saying here, right? So this this is to have a general idea of the spiritual world. And what is the form and form of the spirits? The spirits do not have a specific, limited, and constant form. So that's why the spirits say to Kardec that they resemble a flame, a glow, an ethereal spark, right? Just a spark. And they travel across space as fast as thought itself, because thought is very fast in this sense, right? And then so it means that if they, let's say, a spirit is think by itself, well, now I'm going to go for the talking materially, right? And now I'm go, I want to go to the moon. So he's there. He thinks he's there already, right? So that's what's being said here, because matter is not an obstacle to spirits, and they also can pass through matter, right? So the spirit, if you are inside a closed room, the spirit can easily come inside the room, because the wall, the door is not an obstacle to them, because they have only their perispiritus, which is very subtle matter, and that matter, the, the the tangible matter is not an obstacle to that subtle matter, which are they are composed of. And regarding the ubiquity of spirits, this question raised here, because there is some situation when an spirit, of course, a high order spirit, it it can manifest in many places at the same time. Well, does that mean that the spirit can divide himself or herself and be present in many places? No, it's not. That's not the case, right? What's happening here, the spirit tells to Kardec, is that the spirit it is in one place, right? And from that place, he radiates his thought, right, in many directions, like the sun, which is spread its rays in all directions. Right? So that's what happened, and then that thought of the spirit is, as it is spread towards many directions, then it seems that the spirit it is in many places at the same time. But what happens is this, right? And this radiating power, Kardec says, depend on its degree of purity. Of course, a less evolved spirit cannot do that, you know, in some situations. So he cannot do this kind of a radiating thought, right? So that's so it means that the ubiquity is explained by this phenomena, let's say. And as I said before, the spirit have a perispirit. It is surrounded by a kind of a vaporous substance, and which is the perispirit, the semi-material envelope of the spirit, right? So, and where the spirit takes this perispirit from? It takes from the globe's own universal fluid, because we have tangible matter around us, but we also have um, the universal fluid from our globe, right? So our Earth, and from such a universal fluid of our Earth is from that we take our perispirit. That means that when we go from one world to another, for example, we know from Spiritism that when we reach the most progress we can in this world, Earth, then we go to high order world than Earth, right? And but when we go there, we must surround ourselves with the universal fluid of that world, of that high elevated world, which is, you can imagine that is such fluid of such a world is much less dense, right? than ours. So that's why the spirits say to Kardec that when we go from one world to another, we change our perispirit. It means that we leave our perispirit formed by the universal fluid of Earth, and we take the universal fluid of that new world where we are going to. And the perispirit have a form according to the spirit volition, because it's very flexible, right? Because it's a semi-material, and by our thinking we can change our appearance, right? For example, if a guy dies, for example, very in a very age, in a very advanced age, let's say with 90 years, right? Then after some times, um, such a guy, now it's a spirit, it comes and appear to us. He can appear as the same as he was when he had, for example, 30 years old, right? So much younger, because by it's thinking, he changed the form of the perispirit. That's what's being said here. Huh? What Kardec says in the Genesis, book of Genesis, written by him, he says, for example, if a person, for example, didn't have an arm, the right arm, for example, right, when he was here incarnate, then after he dies, the perispirit is normal, right? Although a person can have no arm, no right arm here when incarnate, the perispirit is there. That is the form of the arm. So when he come to us after death, he can appear with his normal body, with his right arm, or in order for us to recognize him better, he can show his appearance to us without his arm. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have, right? He has, but just to help us to recognize him. So that's what is being said here. Um, the perispirit can change according to our volition, right? Our will. And the spirit sometimes appear to us either in our dreams or when awakened. For example, well, I think everybody in some time have a dream about a person, let's say a grandmother or grandpa, that has passed away many years ago, and then you dream that you are meet him or her, and you talk to him, have the joy of meeting her and him, for example, and that is what we call in spiritism a real dream, because it's not something only in your imagination. It means that you found it, actually your grandfather in this case, right? And talked to him, and the dream is a small, slight remembrance of what happened to you when you were sleeping, and then you found your grandfather, right? So that's why they say that sometimes they appear as in dreams, but also they can appear when awakened. But here is the case of the medium, right? The seer mediums, right? The mediums that can see spirits, right? They see spirits awakened, right? With their second sight, we say, right? They see the spirit not with these physical eyes, but with this perispirit. And the spirits also may take a visible or even a tangible form. It means that there is some situation, of course, it's rare, when the spirit can kind of condensate its perispirit until a point that you can touch him or being touched by him, right? Him or her, right? And that is the when they assume a tangible form, which is always temporary, right? So it's never permanent, because that's not the natural state, right, of that spirit. The natural state is the their perispirit, which is semi-material. So that is the perispirit. And then next topic that Kardec is talking about here in the Spirits book is the different order of the spirits. We know, well, we know and we can see, right, and even this in our world, among the incarnate, we can see some people that are better than others in intelligent, are more intelligent or are better in kindness, for example, right? So there are many kind of spirits. So Kardec then kind of classified them in three principal orders, right? According to their degree of self-purification. So in the first order, we have the highest elevated spirit, right? Which is the pure spirits, and they have already reached the perfection. Pure spirits, for example, doesn't don't need to reincarnate anymore, right? So that's the case of Jesus, for example, right? And then below the pure spirits, we have the good spirits, which reach the middle of the scale, the progress scale, right? So that's what Kardec's saying here. And then below the good spirits, we have the imperfect spirits, which are characterized by ignorance, the desire for evil, and they have all kind of passions. Kardec's talking here about the spirits, right? But of course, it also applies to us, right? Because we are nothing more than spirits incarnate, right, in our body. So let's talk about it from below to above, right? So the third order is the imperfect spirits. Then Kardec classifies such order in five classes, right? The lowest class is the impure spirits. Um, the only preoccupation of such kind of a spirit is to do evil, right? So, and they act upon individuals whose character is weak, because to an individual whose character is strong, they cannot have no influence on them, right? And then their language express trivialness and rudeness, right? So they are very imperfect. And when incarnate, you see here, when incarnate, they are inclined toward all vices and passions. Then next level, a little bit above the impure, are the frivolous spirits. They're ignorant, mischievous, thoughtless, and mocking. So they're always joking, right? So this is such kind of a spirits. Their language, that's why their language are spirited and facetious, right? And they are under the subjection of high order spirits, who often use them as we use servants, because sometimes the high order spirits need their work, but so they use as we use a servant. Kardec says here, right? The next class, the eighth class, is the pseudo-learned spirits. So spirit is what is pseudo-learned, right? So spirits that they think they know, but they don't, right? So that's the situation here. Or they think they know more than they actually do, as Kardec says, right? The language has a serious tone, and we can be, well, they can influence the other in such tone. Like, whoa, this spirit, it seems that it's a sage, a sage spirit, right? But it's not, because such language can be deceptive. They say a few truths, but such truths are mixed with the most absurd errors. Right? So this is the pseudo-learned spirits. Then, little bit above, we have the neutral spirits. That spirit which is not bad, but is not bad, but not good either. Right? So they vacillate between the two, and have not raised above the ordinary human condition. So means that we should say that many incarnate spirits among us are this kind of a spirit, right? So, they have not raised above the ordinary human condition, and they attach to the things of this world and long for its satisfaction. So they are very connected to the material life. That's the situation here. Then after the third order, we have this. No, we have more one class more, which is the sixth class, right? The boisterous and disturbing spirits. So Kardec says that strictly speaking, they can belong to any of the third order classes, from the 10th to the sixth class, right? And they make their presence known through perceptible and physical effects, such as reps and displacement of solid objects, right? So, as this kind of spirit is in the base of the material effects, right? The material phenomena in spirit in spiritism, and they also act upon the. This is interesting here, right? They act upon the atmosphere, water, fire, or in the entrails of earth. So here we can think about what we see in the books, right? In Fairy Tales book, for example, which it talks about the spirits of the nature, right? So we can, well, spirits of earth, we can think about the goblins, gnomes, and spirits of the atmosphere of the air, right? We can think about the sylphs. The water, we can think about the undines, and the fire, we can think about the salamanders, which are all spirits of nature, right? So that's which in the fairy tale books we see as a kind of a myth, right? Some of the imagination. At the end of the day, is not right. They are spirits who act um, in the nature, right? For example, thunder, rain. So they are acting on these on masses. We are going to see this later, right? And they are also used by the high order spirits as their agents, right? You can remember, for example, that situation when Jesus was in the boat, right? When with these disciples, and then uh, they have that situation of rain, thunder, and then they get very uh, very impressed by that. And then Jesus kind of give an order, right? So to the weather, and then everything calmed down, right? So what did Jesus did that moment, right? In some way, he acted upon this such a spirit of nature, right? So that's what happened there. And then uh, we have the second order spirits, which is the good spirits. Right now, we are going to the point where such kind of spirits are not more in them. Evil does not predominate anymore, right? So that are the good spirits. The fifth class, so from the lower class, from the second order, are the benevolent spirits. So their dominant quality is kindness, but the knowledge is limited, right? So they progress more in the moral sense than in the intellectual. We can see such kind of people in our world, right? And then the fourth class is the learned spirits, and they are distinguished by the extent of their knowledge. So they have a big chunk of knowledge, let's say, right? But they are not that um, they are not as kind as they have knowledge, right? So they have aptitude for scientific issues, less concerned with moral ones. And so we can think about the scientists, for example. Huh? And then the third class, which is one step above, is the wise spirits. They are characterized by moral qualities of the highest degree. They have an intellectual capacity to judge people and things precisely. Right? We can think here, for example, on the third class, we could think, for example, about the great philosophers, for example, right? Plato, for example, the Greek philosopher who lived in the 4th century before Christ. Or we can think about the Immanuel Kant, for example. Immanuel Kant was a German philosopher who lived in the 18th century. And so this is just an example, right, of the what I what I believe is a wise spirit, right? And then uh, the higher class on the second order are the high order spirits. So these high order spirits, they combine all the qualities of the three previous order, right? Goodness, the sixth order, and yeah, well, the goodness is the fifth class, science, fourth class, and wisdom, capacity to judge, right, which is the third class. So they combine all of these. That's why they are the most that we can reach on the second order level. Their language is always noble, elevated, and frequently sublime, Kardec says. And they communicate with those who in good faith seek truth, but they get away from those who are only motivated by curiosity or who turn from practicing the good. Yes. And when incarnate, they accomplish a mission of a progress, and they display the type of a perfection we can aspire in our world. Right. So in this case here, I can think about Socrates, right, which was the master of Plato. Right? He was a spirit which has had all these kind of characteristics. We can also, on the religion side dimension, we can think, for example, about Buddha. What I believe that he was a kind of a high order spirit. And then on top of all, we have the pure spirits. And then uh, I believe that the only example that we have and that we know is Jesus, right? So they have absolute intellectual and moral superiority, right? That's why Jesus used to say that he and the Father was one, not meaning that he was God, right? It was the Father, or that he was God, but that he was tightly connected to God in its principle, in its moral superiority, right? And they have ascended through all degrees of the hierarchy. It means that we ourselves, we are in some point over this scale, right? But we are progressing in direction of the to reach the stage of a pure spirits. And when we go all through the such scale, then we reach it such a stage, right? Such condition of the pure spirits. Um, that's why they are freed themselves from all impurities of matter. So what I said, right? They don't need to reincarnate again and anymore. And they are it's here. They are no longer subject to reincarnation in perishable bodies like we have, right? And they enjoy inalterable bliss. And they are but they don't stay idle, right? Because no spirit stay idle in the universe. And such kind of spirits are the messengers and ministers of a God, whose orders they carry out to maintain universal harmony. Is exactly what Jesus did among us, and he did in the 2,000 years ago, and is doing until now, right? He will do it in the future. So, and they assist human beings in their distress, and they assist us, right, in our distress and inspire us to do good. So that's are the pure spirit. Is the highest level we can reach, right? So that is an idea of a scale, a progress scale of the spirits, and the progression of well, why does that happen? Because God has created we spirits, all of us were created simple and ignorant, but God gives us each of us a mission to reach perfection, to become pure spirits. Right? So that's our goal. And we acquire knowledge by experiencing trials. But that's why we are here incarnate in this world. Right? We are experiencing trials, many difficulties, many obstacles, sometimes suffering, sometimes illness, sometimes losses, and then we are acquiring knowledge. And some of us accept humbly such trials, right? And then we arrive faster at our destiny. But if we complain, right, and we mm, become rebellious, and then we remain far from such promised bliss, which is reaching the perfection. Right? So it all depends on us, right? On our free will. That's what is being said here. We can progress faster or slower, depending on ourselves, right? And we progress in intelligence and morality at different rates because we are all in different, right, in intelligence and morality. And then Kardec asked to the spirit, can a spirit regress? For example, a spirit now it is good. Can he suddenly he become evil again? No. The answer from the spirit is no. We as a spirit, we never regress, right? We never come back to a, well, for example, if we are on a stage of a good spirit, we can't go back to a stage of an impure spirit. That's impossible. What we can do is to remain stationary at some level, right? No, I don't want to progress. It's good. I'm good the way I am now, but that we can decide, but not to regress, right? But even that situation, in some point of our life, we feel the let's say desire to evolve, right? Because as was said in the beginning, I was said here, God created us to reach perfection, right? So, and as we progress, we gain understanding of what is holding us back from perfection. It means that we can analyze ourselves and see what the imperfection that we still have, and the virtues that we still don't have, and then we can work on that, right? To get away with our imperfection and to assimilate new virtues, right? So this is the progress. And then Kardec asked a question that is not from Kardec, is from all humanity, right? Since the beginning of the time. Why doesn't God exempt us from the trials required to reach perfection? Why sometimes I have to go through an illness, losses, some suffering, some obstacles, which is something that make me suffer, right? Um, the answer is because we must have the merit of our own deeds. Because if God had created us already perfect, we would not have no merit. We would not deserve uh, any benefits of such perfection, right? So that's why, for example, the medieval thinkers used to believe that God created the angels perfect already, right? So that's not correct, right? Angels, we will see soon, is nothing more than pure spirits, right? But angels reach such a stage of angels by going through all this scale here, right? So that's what we know through spiritism. So God did not create anyone, right, in the universe already perfect. We were created all simple and ignorant, and then we have a mission from God to reach perfection. And but that doesn't mean that we need to pass through the trial of evil. Well, to reach perfection, I must, in some time of this my many lives, I must go through the trial of evil. For example, I must kill somebody. For example, no, we need to pass through the trial of ignorance, not of evil. Right? So, and we follow the path of good and or evil according to our free will, right? And the free will develops as we spirits acquires self-awareness, right? When we have our conscience, right? The moral consciousness, for example, right? And when we are still imperfect, then we can be influenced by imperfect spirits also, which are similar to us, right? So that is why Kardec says here that imperfect spirits can influence toward the path of evil. And here is about the angel and demon, right? The idea of angels, beings that were created already perfect by God. That does not exist, right? Angels are pure spirits, which have passed through, who have passed through all the degrees towards perfection. And also there are no demons, right, in the world. Demons in the sense of a being that will be connected to evil forever, right? That does not exist in the universe, because user sense consider this in this way, right? But demon should be understood as impure spirits, as Kardec saying here, right? It means that the demons also are on this progress scale, right? Sometimes in the future they also will arrive at the perfection, perhaps at a slower pace, right? Of someone who decided by his or her free will to choose good, right? But they also will evolve. So that's what is important to we have this notion here from Spiritism. Then now just we have some little slides here about the incarnation of spirits, because much of this, what we have in this chapter, we have already seen on the chapter 1, right? This is the chapter 2. So purpose of incarnation, right? Why we incarnate. Beside the reaching perfection is not only for us to evolve intellectually and morally, but we also have our share in the work of creation, right? Because, for example, we live now in this civilized world. So this civilized world with all these buildings there and this, all these things that we produce is our part in the work of creation. Right? So that's what is meant here by saying that we share in the work of creation, and we are necessary, right, for the evolution of the universe in this sense. And through such action, we also progress, right, and go near to God. So that's what's being said here. And what is the soul? When we hear about spirits and we also hear about soul. Actually, they are the same. The soul is not nothing more than the spirit when it is incarnate. So, in that sense, we say a person who is in the spiritual world, we say it is a spirit. We that are incarnate, we say we are soul. But we are nothing more than a spirit incarnate in this body, right? We are soul in this sense. And besides the soul and the body, we have the link, right, which is the perispirit that we have already talked about that, right? So with our perispirit that we act upon our body, right, and we have our senses from our body, and through the perispirit it's come to the spirit, and then I think something, for example, I decide to move my arm, for example. This order from my mind to my body is through the perispirit also, right? So that's what is being said here. And the soul is only present on a body when this body is alive, right? When the body is dead, then the soul leaves that body, right? That's what's being said here. And the soul is not enclosed in the body like a caged bird, right? It's not in a prison. It radiates and manifests outside. Right? You can think about Jesus, for example, right? He radiated his soul, huh? And beyond his physical body. and the soul is not does not have a circumscribed city within the body. So we say that, well, people who think much, maybe the soul is residing on the brain, right? And people who are very good, we say that the soul is residing in his heart, but it's not actually something circumscribed, as Kardec is saying here. So with this, we end our presentation today about the spirit and the incarnation of the spirit. And then next month, the 11th of April, we'll see the next chapter, next to two chapters. No, chapter 4, actually chapter 4 and 5, which is the reincarnation, right? Plurality of existence. And so thank you for this opportunity to be here with you again. Esteban?
Okay, my friend. Thank you. Nice presentation. Very good insights, and it's wonderful to have you all here. Okay, so I needed to close our call because today I'm replacing. I need to open the virtual healing.
Okay.
So
Uh,
we didn't have any questions. So please, hey Lu, if you have any questions, please let us know because I need to move to open the healing, the virtual healing. Our friend Dirce, she's on holidays in Brazil, so she cannot
yeah.
open. So I'm covering her while
Yeah.
she is enjoying the family. Uh,
Yeah.
so Roberto, once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for all the board from FESP to 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 keep going with this partnership with us here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Esteban.
Okay.
See you
So
next month.
okay, can you do the final prayer?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, so let's finish our meeting today and thanking the spiritual benefactors for all the support they gave us during this presentation. Um, we also thank Jesus for this opportunity to be reunited here in His name. And finally, to God, our Heavenly Father, for the opportunity of this life, the opportunity of learning about the deep aspects of our lives through Spiritism. And then by having this opportunity to evolve faster to our target, which is perfection, as we saw today. So be it.
Amen. Thank you, Lou. Thank Lou said, Lou VM said you very nice talk. Thank you. Okay, my friends. Don't forget, 8:30 we will have the virtual healing. I'll open the room in a few minutes. So enjoy the rest of your day. Roberto, thank you very much. I'll see
Thank
you
you.
next week.
Okay,
Okay.
next
Just
month.
remind everyone this Sunday it's we don't have service in face-to-face meetings in Dublin. So we will have only the virtual, the online talk. Okay. Thank you. Have a nice evening. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.